Hi, it's Timothy Carlson here, and it's video game time again. I'm finally trying to get back somewhat to doing video game reviews on this channel, and today we're looking at the latest installment in the Dragon Quest Monsters series, this being Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince for the Nintendo Switch. The Dragon Quest series has been around for a very long time now, originally in the US due to a copyright dispute with a tabletop game. It was known as Dragon Warrior, but it's now known as Dragon Quest in both the US and Japan. Now, in the early days of the NES, there were like the two big RPG franchises, Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest, it was originally called in Japan. Now, in America, Final Fantasy has always been the more popular franchise, whereas in Japan, it's completely the opposite. Dragon Quest is the bigger deal of the two. And because of this, there were a lot of games in the Dragon Quest series back in the day that never got American releases. The Dragon Quest Monsters spin-off series is just what it sounds like. It's a spin-off of the main Dragon Quest series, usually involving characters from the main series games. And in these games, you go around and recruit monsters to fight in battles, recruit more monsters, try to win tournaments, and of course, battle against the forces of evil. If this does sound somewhat like a Pokemon ripoff, do keep in mind that the Dragon Quest series had a monster recruitment element several years before the Pokemon series was invented. There have been several RPGs, particularly in Japan, that have had this element, so just because a game has a monster recruitment element doesn't just mean it's a Pokemon ripoff. The original Dragon Quest Monsters game, or Dragon Warrior Monsters, as it was released in America under, came out on the Game Boy Color in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was always one of my favorite video games ever. So every time there's a new one of these Dragon Quest Monsters games, I like to jump on it. And I was so pleased to hear that there'd be one coming out on the Nintendo Switch. In this game, you play as Sorrow the Manslayer, a half-human, half-demon, who was actually an antagonist in Dragon Quest IV. And of course, this game revolves around him wanting to get revenge on his father, who cursed him and made him unable to harm anything with monster blood. So he teams up with several human and elf characters and travels through various realms using crystals to transport his tower to the various realms in the upper and lower echelons, going through these areas, fighting in tournaments, and of course trying to recruit more monsters to his cause. Most of the Dragon Quest Monsters games do have a pretty common recurring theme when it comes to the overall gameplay, but each one of them has added in several innovations over the years. Typically in this game, you're going to go through and go to these different realms, you're going to fight in tournaments, and what you can do is you can have up to 4 monsters in your party at a time, and you can have up to 4 in a reserve party in case your party is KO'd in battle. This, of course, requires you to take some strategy into effect, and you'll want to level up your monsters and fight often so that you can get more of the talent points that you can use to assign new skills and level up abilities to your monsters. Now, one of the very interesting elements about the Dragon Quest Monsters series is that at some point in the game, you can unlock synthesis, which is where you can fuse 2 monsters together to create a brand new newborn monster that inherits some of the qualities of its parents and special moves. Some monsters can actually only be attained this way, so it's a skill you'll definitely want to try out. A monster has to be at least level 10 in order to engage in synthesis, so if you level up a monster pretty considerably and you fuse it with something else that's leveled up pretty considerably, you'll get some really good monsters that way, and of course you'll inherit abilities and talent points from the parents. Now, this is a very fun game. I have not yet played through the entire thing, but I do have a few minor criticisms. First of all, I like an RPG that has a good plot, but Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince almost has a little too much plot. And I think at times this actually did bog down the story. The game does start very slow. You gotta sit through almost 20 minutes worth of cutscenes before you can really do anything engaging. Likewise, the menus you have to navigate are a little cumbersome, and you actually have to go to a paddock area if you want to change out your monsters. You can't just do this through the menus alone, other than switching between your main and reserve party. When you get the menus that show up on screen that have yes or no answers, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in this appearing, and that results in me often picking the wrong option, and that's a little annoying. Your character also has the ability to jump, but the problem is he can't really jump that high, so it's not too good for dodging monsters that want to engage in battle with you, or getting over certain obstacles or up certain hills and the like. Still, overall, I would have to say this is a very fun game, and I think it's a worthy addition in the Dragon Quest Monsters series. I think my favorite game in this little sub-series of the Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior family will always be the original Game Boy Color game, but this is a nice modern console entry into the series, and I'm very happy to see this get released. Any fan of RPGs or any games that involve monster collecting, monster breeding, or anything of the like, I think you'll enjoy this one. You might want to wait for it to go on sale. It currently retails for the normal full Switch price of about $60, but I imagine at some point there might be a sale on this one, so I'd probably wait before you pull the trigger. That said, though, very happy with the game, and I'm glad I added it to my collection. Are you a Dragon Quest fan? Are you a fan of the Dragon Quest Monsters subseries? What do you think is the best game? Who's your favorite monster? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content because I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.